guys hear me okay? Carol, what's happening? And Paula, my voice is quiet. You know, it seems kind of strange because I'm getting a lot of crazy reverb. Do you guys hear that? Does it sound like I'm talking on a Mr. Microphone? Maybe I'm too close to the mic. Let's see. Does that help? Maybe it doesn't help. Hey guys, this is Jim with Crawfordology. If you haven't been here before, please make sure that you, where is it? Come on, where is it? My subscribe button's not working. What has happened? Something's happened to my subscribe button. Subscribe is gone. You guys hear me okay? You got a little echo. Janet says she's got a little echo in the house. See if we can figure out what's doing that. See if I can, is that better? Is it getting any better that way? Says mic up, mic up. All right, how's that, John? John says it's fine. Linda, I don't know. Somebody was in here playing with my machine. My mic machine's been getting messed with. Maybe that's what's happening. See if I can turn it down here some. All right, is that any better? You guys good? I sound live. Linda says I sound live. Good, good, good. All right. Carol, I don't know if you're saying it's bad because you just said no. Tiffany says no. Judy, how are you? How are you, Judy? Okay, I'm just going to take it that it sounds okay unless you guys tell me otherwise. And I got to find out what's going on with my buttons. All sorts of stuff messed up right now. But hey, let's not let that distract us. As I said before, I'm Jim. This is Crawfordology. I sound like Optimus Prime. Okay. All right. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Charlie. Hey, if you haven't been here before, make sure that you come visit us at American One, where we continue to talk about the things you care about. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with this crazy echo. Let's see. I get it. I can hear little bits of it. But it looks like everything's right on my machine. So if it's not, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let's just gut it out. We'll just get through it. All right? And if I figure it out, I'll fix it. I promise. I promise. Hey, listen, so American One, come visit us. There's all sorts of things here. Video, you can read articles. Look, you can even click on ads that talk about the hunter who mistakenly left the trail camera on and apparently discovered Bigfoot. At least that's what it looks like. Now, we don't put those ads there. Those ads come from other folks. So who am I to know if that's true or not? Who am I to know? Hey, listen, so today, and you know, we heard about it yesterday. This morning it started, maybe last night it started. Justice Breyer announced, secondly, that he was retiring, right? First, I think we saw the Biden administration kind of roll it out there, and we see that Justice Breyer has decided, you know, at 83 years old, it's probably time for him to stop. And I'll tell you, you know, while people have different feelings about Justice Breyer for his judicial views and things like that, it just made me think, you know, what is behind the Supreme Court? What does it take to actually select a Supreme Court justice? And what could we learn by looking back at the very first Supreme Court and then seeing how the Supreme Court looks and acts today? So I took some time and I went through and I went, of course, to my favorite document, which is the Constitution. And right there in Article 3, we get the judicial power. Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, all kind of talking about these judicial powers. But in Section 1, of course, it outlines that there will be a court and that the Supreme Court is going to be the boss of all the courts, right? I'm kind of simplifying. It says that, you know, Congress is going to, the president's going to nominate, the Congress will confirm, and talks even, you know, in the original court, there were six justices. So interestingly, I then thought, I don't really know that much about the first six justices, right? I mean, I know who the first Supreme Court Chief Justice was, John Jay, right? So John Jay, let's just kind of take a look at him. Of course, nominated by George Washington. That's pretty good on a resume. Hey, you know, Commander-in-Chief, the general of, commander-in-chief of the Continental Congress, the first president. He's the guy who said I should come down here and be nominated. So probably a pretty easy confirmation process for him. He was, what was he? Well, he was the second governor of New York, right? He was the acting Secretary of State. He was the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. He was the Minister to Spain. He was the sixth president of the Continental Congress. And then he was a delegate to the Second Continental Congress. He was a delegate from New York to the First Continental Congress, right? So he's got kind of a resume here that sounds pretty good. It sounds like it's reasonable. I could see why we might take a guy with those kind of credentials and say, okay, apparently he's in high esteem by his folks. They think that he represents them well, so they put him on the Supreme Court. Now, next is William Cushing. Now, I didn't know much about William Cushing, but of course, he also was nominated by George Washington, which in my book is just a markup, right? If you get nominated by the first president, you should get extra points for that. So he's nominated by George Washington, as were all, of course, and I'm teasing about that, all the first Supreme Court's going to be nominated by George Washington, as the Constitution describes. He's a Harvard-educated guy. He lives a long life, right? He dies when he's 78 years old. So again, he was Massachusetts Chief Justice, and then he becomes one of those first 5 associate justices coming in for the first Congress. So pretty interesting guy himself. There are several things mentioned. 20 years and 11 months tenure in the Supreme Court, among the longest of the court's inaugural members. Pretty good. He was nominated to become the Chief Justice. And though he was confirmed, he declined the appointment and said, no, thank you. He was the last judge in the United States to wear a full wig. The whole court dress, the whole idea of kind of that English common law, what happens even today in the English courts. So of course he was a humble guy. He's willing to say, hey, I'm not going to be the chief of these fine men. I'll be part of it because you've asked me to, but I don't think I can do these other things. After the American Revolution broke out, he becomes a guy who comes in and reorganizes the courts to remove all of the trappings of British society and sovereignty, getting rid of the things that are the king's appointments, the king's grants to people. So pretty interesting guy in himself. The next one was John Blair. John Blair, right here in Virginia, went to school at William and Mary, a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Let's see. He was he signed the Townsend Duties, that whole Virginia Association of which tried to prohibit and stay away from British goods. So he signs that act. He took part in the Virginia Constitutional Convention. He sat on the committee that framed the Declaration of Rights, as well as the plan for the new government, so the whole Virginia plan. He served on the Privy Council. The legislature elected him as the judge of the General Court, and he took on the Chief Justiceship in 1780, where he became he won election to Virginia's High Chancery Court, whereas with his colleague George Wythe, the Wythe House there in Colonial Williamsburg. So another Williamsburg resident. Remember, Williamsburg is kind of at the center of the colonial world, and Virginia being the largest colony, about 850,000 people. So it's natural that you would have a few Virginians on this court. He resigned his post in 1796, and he died about 68. So kind of a cool thing. He's buried in Bruton Parish here in Williamsburg. Neat to see. Robert Harrison. Robert Harrison, an Army officer, attorney, a judge, Continental Army veteran, American Revolution secretary to George Washington. So he was kind of the chief of staff, Robert Harrison was. And also a Virginia militiaman, became a lieutenant colonel, sits on the Supreme Court. James Wilson, the last one that we're going to talk about from that first and the final member of that first court. Associate Justice of the Supreme Court from 1789 to 1798. Founding father, elected 2 times to the Continental Congress in the United States, signer of the Declaration of Independence. He was a major force in drafting the Constitution, a legal theorist. He was one of 6 original justices appointed, Supreme Court of the United States, blah, blah, blah. University of Pennsylvania. And again, he is one of those rare guys that you can say, you know, we didn't have the 133 million people in the United States to choose from. So we had folks, many of them had been trained from abroad, and James Wilson, the Scotsman, comes in and certainly is among those early folks. Now, so it made me think that all of these guys had to be recognized as experts. So they were experts somehow in their field. They were experts in law. They were well-respected people in society. Certainly Washington had to have respect for him because Washington was one of those careful guys. So it made me want to look up, what's the definition of an expert? What is an expert? So an expert is I'm going to give you 3 definitions according to Webster. And the first one is one with special skill or knowledge representing mastery of a particular subject. Okay? The second is having or involving or displaying special skill or knowledge derived from training or experience. And the last one is to serve as an expert. Okay, experienced. And I think that those are pretty relevant when it comes to choosing a winner. When we choose winners in America, we don't typically do it in any way other than through kind of a meritocracy. Is this person the best person for the job? Is this person the best person that's available for the job? I don't see anywhere in here that it's restricted in a way to identify someone by their color, by their sex, by even the things that motivate them, their creeds. So I'm a little bit disturbed, and I want to share this with you today. So here is President Biden.
Of excellence and decency. While I've been studying candidates' backgrounds and writings, I've made no decision except one. The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court. It's long overdue in my view. Today, Justice Breyer announces his intention to step down.
So here's President Biden, and his number one driver is that the person who he's going to replace, and boy, there is some sort of terrible feedback. We're really going to have to work on this. The person that he's going to replace, Justice Breyer, who by the way seems as if, and despite his particular positions on certain cases, I would tell you, might be interesting to watch him. You understand him a little bit better. I think he loves America. He was a veteran, right? He was a corporal in the Army. He was an intelligence officer or an intelligence soldier. So I think that there are some pretty cool things there. So is it really fair for Biden, who says he's going to unite America, to continue to draw these distinctions instead of saying, hey, I'm going to pick the best person? And by the way, I think the person is, fill in the name, right? Is it Jackson, right? Is it Childs? Is it Kruger? I don't know the answer, right? I don't know the answer, but I know that by setting the stage that, hey, the person I'm going to appoint, the person who I'm going to research, who I'm telling you I've been reading the stuff, and the best person we can get is going to be a black woman. That's really not what he says. He says, I think it's about time we have a black woman. Now, I don't have any problem with any of these justices. I don't know enough about them yet. I'm not picking on them because they're black women. That's certainly not my point. My point is that in America, should we make any decision based on race and creed? And interestingly, this is actually a case before the Supreme Court right now. Right now, the Supreme Court's looking at a case that is about where the plaintiffs are saying, hey, universities can't continue to use these types of measurements to fill their roles. They've got to give it to the best student. It's just simply the best student wins. Now, this brings us through this whole woke movement, this whole idea of being disenfranchised, this whole idea of all the other things that could potentially happen, and all those arguments that are made. I think we've heard those frequently. So Ketanji Brown Jackson was nominated by President Obama to be the district court judge. Biden elevated her to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. She also was a clerk for Breyer. We've got, we've got Michelle Childs, U.S. District Judge Michelle Childs, federal judge in South Carolina, has been nominated but not yet confirmed to serve on the same circuit court. Her name surfaced partly because she's a favorite among some high-profile lawyers, including James Clyburn. We've got Leandra Kruger, and a Harvard grad, Yale Law School, previously a Supreme Court clerk, and has argued dozens of cases before the justices. So I'm not taking anything away that these women are qualified or capable or interested. Who wouldn't be honored to be in this position? I'm simply saying that as the president who swore that he was going to unite the country should not continue to use racial lines to make decisions, to create distinctions, to try to drive elements of the country apart, trying to segregate again in 2022. And I think it's bad for the country. The faster we can get from this and we can start to say, hey, let's look at what makes us great. Let's look at what makes this attorney great and why I think she or he would be a wonderful Supreme Court justice. Not because there's some ideologue that meets my political agenda. The job of the Supreme Court is singular, really. It's to interpret the U.S. Constitution and apply the laws to the U.S. Constitution. Hey, are these things in violation of the Constitution? So it makes sense when we see the world behaving and acting in this way. It does not make sense when we're simply picking and choosing the winners and losers based on the color and creed. And let me go to the comments. I want to hear what you guys have to say and what you're thinking about this. So Carol Hare says she agrees with me. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol. I appreciate that. Judy says Obama's been running the show since Biden won. John says, hey, she's qualified, but don't go by just color. I agree, John. I think that's really the crux of the situation. It's illegal to hire somebody by the color of their skin. Wayne Person says, yeah, absolutely. If as a business owner, if I do that, I'm in deep trouble. I'm in deep trouble. Can't do that. So, if we see things move forward, yeah, Charlie says it's a form of tribalism, right? So how do we have these sorts of things in 2022? And let me ask another question. Was it interesting to you that the judge was a little upset? I'm sure you followed this today or over the last few hours that Judge Breyer really wanted to make the announcement. I'm sure he wanted to talk to people close to him. He wanted to have that conversation, but the White House let it slip. They got it out a little fast. So he hadn't even formally announced, and the White House is talking about replacing him. Now, why are they so anxious to do this? And why has the Senate sworn that they're going to have it done in 30 days? Well, let's talk about what's coming up at the end of this year. And this November, we're going to have midterms. They're 1/3 of could be, Linda. He certainly had a lot of pressure. A lot of these political ideologues were saying, hey, Justice Brennan, Breyer, if you don't do this, we could easily have a different president. And this is what I think. I think they're very concerned about what's going to happen in 3 years, certainly in 2 years. If 2 years went by, or at the end of this year, if the Senate flipped and Republicans are in control of the Senate again, we could see folks not getting nominations, not passing. Certainly, if it waited for 3 years, we would find most likely a Republican president in. And that is something that the liberals can't even get their arms around. I mean, they're so mad already that they can't just start adding additional justices. So how would you feel? You've spent this time. Like I said, I watched the video, I watched his speech, and I felt like the Justice Breyer was a decent man. I might not agree with his points of view, but I felt like he's a decent man. And Linda Hansen makes a point. Hey, if it's age, then how's Pelosi hanging on? Carol Harris says, yes, they're afraid. So I think it's true. I think it's very true that what we're seeing is changing, the makeup of the future Congress. And they realize that it's highly unlikely with such an unpopular president, such an unpopular vice president, and such a lackluster performance on the economy, that such a lackluster performance on darn near everything, that they realize that we're at a point in time where we are about to lose power. The one thing we can hope to is to hang on to this justice. Now, John Graham believes that Pelosi's been there. She served in the First Continental Congress with George Washington. He says she's been around since George Washington. She's got first-person stories. Now, John, I think that might be a stretch, right? So I know you're kidding. But hey, listen, pay attention to these things, and let's hear over the next few days, what is it? What are the things, what are the redeeming qualities that they claim make whichever justice or whichever appointee, rather, the qualifying person, the best qualified? What makes them the winner? What makes them the person that will actually drive our country forward and that will do that primary function of a judge, of a Supreme Court judge, which is to protect and defend the Constitution? So let's see what the nominees are going to look like. And as you do it, pay attention to the nominees. Talk to your friends, not about the idea of color, because that's really not, that shouldn't matter to us. We should be just blind to color. We should not be blind to the idea that we require winners. We want the best to be serving the citizens of the United States, not political hacks or ideologues who are going to advance the ideas, who are going to legislate from the bench. We want folks that are true blue and American. All right, folks, that's all I got for tonight, but I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Have a great one.